On today's episode of the High Achieving Female Podcast, we are excited to introduce to you one of the winners of the 50 fastest growing women-owned led companies as presented by Women Presidents Organization and JPMorgan Chase. We're talking to Kathleen McCarron, top dog and founder of Portland Pet Food Company, based out of Portland, Oregon. Her company serves clients not just in the US, but in Canada and Japan. We're discussing how Katie, motivated by her own dog, started making meals at home, which led to the creation of her company in 2014. Her journey from healthcare administration to leading entrepreneur in the pet food industry is truly inspiring. We hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the High Achieving Female Podcast, powered by Know, where we believe high achieving female leaders deserve to be known. Here, you're going to get the tips, tools, and inspiration you need to network, grow, scale, and balance your business, career, and life. This is a special series of the High Achieving Female Podcast, powered by Know, where you'll get up close and personal with the winners of the 50 fastest women-owned and led companies in America, as presented by WPO and JPMorgan Chase. I am seriously so excited to introduce you to one of our winners of the 50 fastest women-owned and led businesses today. Katie McCarron is here. This one is for all the animal lovers, my cats, my dog lovers, owners. My goodness, she's the founder and top dog for Portland Pet Food Company, whose tagline is "Feed your dog like you feed yourself." I love this because this conversation is going to be so incredible. We're going to talk all things business. We're going to talk about how you conceptualize this. And really, Portland Pet Food Company is all about producing human grade meals for your cats and dogs. Welcome, Katie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited to dig into this because Portland Pet Food Company started as a retirement project and has turned into a global brand. So, you know, I love someone who kind of your second mountain or your second phase, second career, and you think it's a fun side project, sort of like no initial happenings, and then it blows up beyond your wildest dreams. Let's talk about that. How in the world did you get started in the pet food industry?
Well, I was happily retired, and I had a few years to care for an elderly mother. She passed away, and then my dog became elderly.
Okay.
And Rosie was 14 and a half at the time and was struggling to eat. The vet had really given up on her and said, Kate, you know, it's probably her time. It's pretty old for a dog her size. And I just thought, no, Rosie's got me through so many things. I need to start looking into the pet food that I'm feeding her, which I knew nothing about, which is very common. Mm-hmm. And I started cooking, and she started eating, and she ate vegetables for the first time in her life. And she gained weight. Her coat got shinier, and she lived to be nearly 17 years old.
Wow. Okay,
and it was
incredible.
During that time that I thought, I need to share this with others. And that's the start of the business, really.
My gosh, I love a business that is founded on just a need, right? You're fulfilling you're plugging the hole in the need that you have, and boom, here comes something incredible. Can we talk a little bit about the pet food industry? And when was this business? When did you launch? When did you officially launch out?
I launched the business officially in July of 2014.
Okay.
And we entered into retail in 2015.
Wow.
As well as being online. And the pet food industry at that time, fresh frozen, was just getting started. Toppers and mixers was just getting started. I really didn't know anything about that. I really did this out of love for a dog. And I wanted to create a wholesome product. And I wanted to use only human grade ingredients, sourced and made in the United States, because so many of the recalls were coming from ingredients that either were synthetic vitamins or from offshore. And thus we kept it very simple. We worked with a food scientist and developed these formulas. We started out fresh frozen, and then we created a shelf-stable meal in a pouch.
Wow.
So now you have the convenience of fresh, but it's in a pouch, and it's shelf-stable for 2 years because it's cooked right in the pouch.
2 years. That's incredible. So you really were one of the first that came out on the scene with this. I know I remember when I was growing up and we had Chai was our family pet. And I mean, there was like, I won't say their names, but you know, there were just sort of like the kibbles and bits and I don't know if that's, you know, like just a little what they're even called, the little brown things,
the little kibbles.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. And that's what we fed the dog, and we didn't know what we didn't know. I mean, that's what was available to us, and that's what we thought. And then here you come and say, no, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way.
There is a better way. And it's interesting to me that I was so naive about what was in pet food. Mm-hmm. And once I started researching, we work with all sorts of customers, though. We just say, if you can include a natural ingredient into your dog's diet or your cat's diet, it will benefit them in the long run. Their health will be much better. There's proven studies out of Europe about this. You can use it as a topper mixer, or you can use it as a supplemental meal. We have a lot of raw feeders who will use this when they're traveling. So much of pet food is made with rendered meats and ingredients that are not suitable for the human food chain.
Right.
And we can do better for our pets.
It logically, it makes sense, right? Like logically, it makes sense. Why are we not feeding them fresh foods and vegetables like we would consume? I mean, like I said, logically, it completely makes sense. And why we weren't, I don't know the answer to that, nor do we need to really go into that. But what an incredible business you have created. So Portland Pet Food is in 5,700 stores across North America. You have a phenomenal subscription-based business that you've built as well. Before we dig into the wild success that you've created, let's go back. Who were you? Who was Katie before pet food?
Well, I had run a successful business and had sold that in 2010. And I was happily retired. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned before, I was taking care of an elderly mom at the time. I think the entrepreneurial spirit that's always been there came out. And when I saw the opportunity to provide these types of meals to other dogs and now cats, and saw how well this product did for Rosie, mm-hmm. that I just felt an obligation to share this. I had a serious health event in 2006. I had a stroke and was paralyzed on my left side.
My goodness.
And worked really hard to get back to work. And Rosie was beside me all the time.
Right.
And she was my number one, besides my family. I mean,
right.
She was family
right.
too. And I just wanted to build this business and knew that I could get back into business. You just have to work really hard when you go through a health event like that.
I can only imagine. And so talk about that a little bit. What was life like for you? I mean, thank goodness for Rosie, right?
Yes.
Sure. Emotional support. These are our family members, just like you said. But I can only imagine that, you were relearning a lot of things. You were, reinventing kind of like, okay, who am I? What does this look like? Anyone who goes through any kind of trauma, especially a health crisis, right? Was it that you knew, and what was your original business? What industry were you in then?
My original business was health communications business.
Health communications.
Yes,
okay.
For humans.
Okay. For humans. I love that. And so when you came out of that, were you like, I'm kind of done with this. Like, I really am ready to retire and see what's next? Or was it a forced retirement or?
No, it wasn't forced. We sold the business. I was very pleased to be able to sell that business, and was happily retired. And I really do think it's this entrepreneurial spirit. And I always encourage people that I talk with, especially other younger women, that, if you have an idea or a goal, go for it.
I love that.
And my family was very supportive. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My children are involved, and my husband has been involved in the business too.
I love that. And so with proof of concept through Rosie, right? You were able to really get this off. Let's talk a little bit about the initial steps in launching into retail. We have a number of women-owned entrepreneurs that listen to our podcast, the High Achieving Female Podcast, and they're product-based, and maybe they're looking to get into retail. Talk a little bit about your initial steps. So Rosie is the case study. It's working out. Everything's going great. You realize, okay, we've got it. We've got something, right? How did you decide initially to go into retail? And then what were those first few steps that you took?
Well, my previous business had been in the service industry.
Okay.
So I knew absolutely
totally nothing. Okay.
So I also encourage people, just because you don't know anything doesn't mean you can't do it.
I love that.
And so I started researching about consumer products and how to sell consumer products. We did our first mistake was going into stores right as we approached the holiday season. And they looked at me like, are you crazy? We already have all our stock for end of the year. So we backed off. And in February of 2015, we started marketing to the stores. I was very fortunate. We have a very strong community of natural grocery retailers in Portland, Oregon, as well as a strong community of pet specialty stores. And I actually was able to talk to the buyers and talk to the owners of these stores and ask them what they were looking for and would this product be of interest to them. So I really did a lot of research, and then even about the pricing of the module, because it is a high premium product. And I couldn't reach some of the prices that they liked to because of my cost of goods.
Right.
But we were able to launch, and they brought it in because we formed these relationships, and they found that the consumers really liked our product. The dogs enjoyed it. We started with the dog food only. And we were solving a problem for people.
Right.
People were struggling to feed their pets. And there's nothing worse, just like when you have a child that won't eat, to have a dog or a cat that's struggling to eat. And those have been our primary customers over the years.
And I love that you said that. So timing is everything, right? And doing the research. So talk to me about your first hire. So I'm sure you started this sort of like in your kitchen, right? This is kind of what I'm envisioning here. And then you realized you're onto something. What was that first big hire? Was that in the financial? Was that on research? Was that who did you hire first when you said, okay, this is something I need to bring in an expert?
Right. So when I first started, I hired a lot of friends who had played soccer with me over the years, old high school friends who had retired. But then in about 2000, I went out and hired my first marketing manager.
Marketing manager
Yes.
was the first big hire.
That was our first big hire.
The first real hire.
It was the first real large commitment from the company. Yes. Before that, it had just been myself, my daughter and son and husband, and friends and family.
Right. And how did that impact the trajectory of the pet food company?
It helped a lot because it took a lot off of my plate because we were selling omni-channel. And at that time, when I brought my first employee on, I asked them to focus on online.
Right.
And we focused on Amazon. We also had to balance being in retail because at that time, particularly before COVID hit, many smaller pet food stores were not online, and they wouldn't buy from you if you were selling online.
Really?
And I decided, well, I'm going to be online because I need to be where my customers are.
Right.
You need to have product in your stores. But what I'll do is I will sell in bundles online where you in store can sell in singles.
Right.
And so we had a nice marriage there, and we're able to navigate being both online and in the pet specialty stores.
Where did you start first? Did you go into retail first, or did you do this online
It was
direct to consumer?
We were first in farmers markets,
okay,
and then we started the online and in retail about the same time, actually.
Oh, that's great. I love this. I love this so much. And one of the things I want to make sure we get across on this podcast, especially in this episode, I love it when this is you went into retirement, you had probably a wildly successful career there. And then you said, wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not done. It's time for me to do something else. And this seems like more of the passion project for you. So passion project turned into second career. But let's talk about how it's never too late to get started, right? I mean,
it is never too late to get started. And I think if you have an idea and you enjoy working, you should go with that idea and really try to market it. If you see that there's a need, particularly, as you said, it's a passion project, for me. And I think for women at any age that you can start a business here on your own. And there's so much support. I'm part of this WPO group, as well as we have a local group in Portland, Oregon. Just don't be afraid to ask questions. There's so much support available. You just need to ask.
That's exactly where I was going next, is community. Let's talk a little bit about how you've grown this business in a completely different industry than what you've originated from. Let's talk a little bit about that support. What has the support been? Where have you sought support, sisterhood? We talked about the marketing manager, but what are some of the other areas that are you immersing yourself into? Give back, impact, all of that.
Well, in Portland, it's a real foodie city. And so I quickly belonged to the beverage and food group. There's a local group in Portland, Oregon. Even though I was doing pet food, It's really human food for dogs, both dogs and cats. And thus I tapped into that community. We have the same manufacturing issues. We have the same hiring issues, same selling issues. And we're selling to natural grocery, which is basically the same buyers. So I tapped into that community. I tapped into my women's groups that I belong to, and just also did a lot of research.
Oh, I love that. Talk to me a little bit about the subscription model. The subscription model that you offer within the Portland Pet Food Company. Why subscription model, and how does it differentiate between I can just pop over to my natural grocer and pick up a single?
Well, many people like the convenience of having something delivered to home, and thus the subscription model is easy. And once you sign up, you have regular shipments. Ours is extremely flexible. You can have shipments in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. You can pause it for a while if you'd like. We don't have you make a commitment of 3 or 4 months like many of the subscription models do. So we make it very flexible, and that's been very attractive to the consumers.
How does that compare with, like, in terms of revenue or in terms of clients, number of clients or subscriptions? How does that compare? Which one is the better? Which one,
I really like to see that this company will continue to grow in all channels. We've done extremely well in retail. Pet specialty's been great because the owners of these stores are very educated about pet nutrition. And so they've been great advocates for our products. We're in natural grocery, and then we will continue to build our online business. And it's about a 50-50 split at the moment, actually.
That's great. That's phenomenal. I wonder if they maybe like see the product in store and then they're like, let me do a little research. Okay, there's a subscription model. My dog or cat loves this. Let's just make it easy and get it.
That has happened. We've heard that from some of our consumers.
Oh, I bet. I want to talk a little bit about advice, insight. What's one thing that you did, whether it be early on or even today, this morning, what's one thing that you did that you were like, shoot, I am never doing that ever again? Worst decision. It could have been hiring all those soccer friends. I don't know. But what is the one thing where you're like, nope, never again?
No, those soccer friends are a blessing to this business. So I'm going to do a shout out to them. Oh boy. We all make so many mistakes along the way. I think not listening to myself and sometimes taking too much advice. I am a person that likes to go out and get different opinions, but sometimes you've got to remember to stick with what feels right in your gut.
Yes, 100 bazillion million %. I cannot agree with you more than that. What about advice that you did that you were like, thank goodness, that worked out really, really well. Did any one person along this journey just say like, hey, you need to, and what was that?
There was a woman when I was in my early 20s, when I was working in health education, gave me the advice, Kate, when you're building a company, go out and hire people that you don't have the skills to do something. Find people who are smarter than you in certain areas. Do what you do. That's good. But then let your managers run with everything else that they are experts in. And I think that's the best advice. Sometimes people are afraid of hiring someone that is more knowledgeable than themselves. And I cannot say more about this woman who said to me to do this as we move forward with our companies and grew.
How do you let go of the control, or is that an issue for you at all?
Oh, I think it's always an issue for owners of companies. But at some point you do need to let go because you can't do everything.
That's right. That's right. And then I guess I really want to wrap this up. So with talking a little bit about that revenue, some women, especially women who are highly ambitious and really, really just want to get to the next level. You're a member of WPO. We know that you have to have a minimums of $1 million or more, or 2 million and product. Let's talk a little bit about how, when you reached that first million, what did that feel like? How hard was it? Just off the cuff, kind of what are your initial feelings about that?
Well, at first I was amazed at how well we were doing. And then I think it was in 2019, we were nearly at $1 million. But then my focus was to double or triple the business.
Right.
And that's what we focused on. So it wasn't really about hitting that million. It was just to keep that company growing and keep the momentum going. And we have talked internally in our business that we don't stop enough and appreciate what we have done. And so that is something that we are putting at the top of our forefront for 2024, is to stop and say, we've been successful here. We need to enjoy that and compliment each other, have gratitude. But the goal was always just to keep trying to grow the business 2 to 3 times per year.
I love that. You have to celebrate your wins.
Yeah.
But also, I think too, like when we're focused on this number and then you hit the number and then you're like, okay, what's the next number? What's the next number? What's the next number? And you're like, whoa. Look how long and how hard and what it took to get to that first million. Oftentimes we hear business owners say, especially women business owners say, it was reaching that first million that was the hardest because we didn't know what we didn't know. We were learning as we were growing. And man, it just, we put so much weight and value on that. But I guess it's really about enjoying the journey along the way too, right?
It really is, for me particularly. And I try to create that environment for our entire company.
I love that. Any last pieces of advice for anyone who's listening who is, you are one of the top 50 women-owned and led businesses in the U.S. this year, presented by JPMorgan Chase and Women's Presidents Organization. You are a big deal, ma'am. First of all, congratulations.
Thank
if I
you
haven't
very
said
much.
it enough, let me say that. But for anyone who is looking to really take their business to the next level, any piece of advice or a few words that you would give to them?
Just work well, do a good job. You don't need to be a perfectionist. Just keep moving forward and stick to what you know and enjoy the ride.
Amazing. On that note, thank you so much, Katie, for joining us on a High Achieving Female podcast powered by No. It has been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the High Achieving Female podcast powered by No, where we believe it's time for high-achieving women like you to be seen, heard, and recognized. Until next time, remember, you deserve to be known.